Josh cursed casually under his breath as he reached forward, grabbed a handhold, and pulled himself further along the access tube. Of course his vessel, and he thought of it as his no matter what the captain and the company said, had to run afoul of a pirate vessel. Reach out, grab, pull. Of course the pirates had to get in a lucky hit on his ship, between overlapping shields that didn't quite overlap. Reach out, grab, pull. Of course, that hit had to not just hole and depressurize the engine compartment, but also knock one of the injectors out of alignment. Reach out, grab, pull. And of course, Josh, as the head engineer and only Terran on board, had to fix it. Even if, as he was reminded with each pull, the access tubes were set up for servicing by Anzois who were about a quarter of his own bulk. Reach out, grab, pull. A gentle alarm made Josh curse again, and glance up at the gauges built into the upper rim of his visor. The access tubes were also intended to be used when the reactor was cold and made safe. Even so, the radiation shouldn't be a problem for at least half an hour. Plenty of time to realign the injector, get back out, and have the goofy guys who sat on the bridge get them out of here. Reach out, grab, pull. The guys up there might know where the ship was going, Josh thought, as he started opening a panel that would lead him to the malfunctioning injector. But only Josh and his crew, and it was his crew no matter what the captain and company said, down in engineering knew why and how the ship went anywhere. Josh carefully stowed the loose panel, then peered into the hole and cursed less casually. That also meant that he knew all the reasons the ship wasn't going, and right now it wasn't going because the injector wasn't just misaligned. The plasma feed pipe was torn out of his socket and had been pulled away from the valve assembly. Still, Josh thought, he had enough time. He just needed to wiggle and squeeze his way down to the injector, and hope he had the right tools with him. Reach down, bend, grab, and pull. Josh knew at once that something had gone wrong when he heard the thunk, the hiss, and the air valve closing. And since he was an engineer, he thought with a certain amount of cynical pride, he even knew exactly what had gone wrong. Not that it would help him. There was no way he could reach behind him and reattach the airline. He didn't have half an hour any longer. He had the 5 minutes of backup air in the suit. He cursed and turned his focus to the problem he could fix, that he must fix. Twisting his shoulders, he managed to grab the still warm feed pipe and pull it towards the valve assembly on the injector. It was too short. The tension of the pipe made it impossible to get it closer than a couple of millimeters from the valve. Josh started to sweat. The proximity of the hot reactor and the lack of cooling from the airline would overheat him in less than 10 minutes, Josh knew. By which point he would have been dead for 5 minutes, so it was not worth noticing. But if Josh died, no one else could rescue the crew. No one else could make the ship go. No one else could finish the mission Josh had sworn to do. Josh tried to pull on the feed pipe one more time, with no more luck. He had to do it somehow. He had to. He nodded to himself as he grabbed the thick feed pipe and painfully wedged his hands against the narrow walls to hold it still. He must hold it in place and align with the intake. It was only needed for the brief seconds it took the engine to transpose the ship through ghost space, after all. He must, hold it long enough. Josh touched the transmitter pad inside his helmet with his chin. "Captain, you can transpose when ready. Preferable within the next 3 minutes if you don't mind." "Are you clear of the engine, Engineer Josh?" "I am safe," Josh lied. "Just stuck in the narrow tube. Once we're safe, get my crew to pull me out of here." "If you say so, Engineer Josh." "I do say so, Captain." Josh hesitated, then flicked his comms to the ship-wide channel with his cheek. "For the ship, for the crew, and the mission unspoken." Josh jutted his chin out and turned off both the transmitter and receiver. The crew didn't need to hear what more he might say. Instead, he doubled down his grip on the feed pipe, eyes peeled as he aligned it with the valve assembly. He cursed silently and smilingly as he heard the rumble of the engine spooling up, the feed pipe growing hotter and hotter in his hands. The captain stood with the other crew as the members of Josh's black gang, the ship's engineers, maneuvered Josh's body out from the narrow access tube and carefully placed it on the gurney, or at least what remained of Josh's body. With his hands, you said? The second engineer and the diminutive Lever realized that on this ship, she would always think of herself as the second engineer, not as solemnly as the other engineers laid Josh out. Her engineers now, she realized. But why? First engineer Josh must have thought it was the only way, Captain. But why? The second engineer hesitated a heartbeat, her primary eyes on the gurney as another crew member covered it with the Terran flag. He told us why, Captain. Ah, yes. For the ship, for the crew, for the mission unspoken. What did he mean by that? Do you know? Josh had one goal above all others, Captain, to get his ship and his crew home safe. And he died doing that. If I had not transposed right there and then, the pirate ship would have... The captain shook himself as he looked at the new head engineer. Did you realize you started to talk like Josh? I do, Captain. I guess first engineer Josh rubs off on people. Humans are like that. But now I need to get the engine properly repaired so you can guide my ship and my crew safely home.